gracious, the most merciful. Brothers and sisters, it is an extreme joy, happiness, privilege and honor to be amongst you all this morning to share and to receive the love of Mother Sai. But where are all the children? They've all gone? They're here. Brothers and sisters, I am truly inspired by what I've just seen with your wonderful SSE children. I think they deserve a thunderous round of applause. And I really want to express gratitude and appreciation to the SSE team of teachers who would have done a magnificent job of commitment and dedication to get the children to where they are today. So I think you all deserve another wonderful round of applause. And I had one particular talk planned, but when I came this morning and saw what the children were doing, Swami has inspired me now to change that. So I don't know where this talk is going, only he and he alone knows. But in one interview that I had with Swami many years ago, I asked Swami this question. I said, Swami, what kind of seva should I do in this life? Specifically referring to this incarnation. And he said, you teach the children, help the old people, and visit the hospitals. I never knew anything about teaching an SSE class. So when Swami told me that, I had now to go and research each of the 5 teaching methods. And the SSE teachers would know those methods. 1, storytelling, 2, group activity, 3, prayers, 4, silent sitting, and 5, devotional singing. So I had to learn how to sing, because you had to also teach the children not only the bhajans, but the Islamic songs and the Christian hymns, because in Trinidad, we basically have Muslim, Christians, and Hindus. So I had to learn how to be a good singer. I had to learn the different prayers from all the different religions. I had to learn how to really tell a story in an animated way, using body language and voice intonation, because especially when you're dealing with the smaller ones, you have to become like them. And then the group activity. So being an SSE teacher for over 30 years, but in the initial stages, it allowed me to do so much research and gain so much information about Sri Sathya Sai Baba's teachings. And Bhagawan has said, if you are a good SSE teacher, you need not do any other sadhana. That is one of the greatest, most rewarding sadhanas that you can ever get involved in, simply because we are dealing with molding and awakening human values in very tender little hearts. So this morning I just want to remind all of us, Bhagawan has said that when it comes to character development, 75% of his time was spent with the younger ones. And for character development to take place, he says it's like a 3-legged stool. You have the parent first, the teacher or the guru, and then the child. So let's look at the role of the parents first, according to Swami. Bhagawan has said 99.9% of parents spoil their children. Is that true?
Yes.
Say yes.
Yes.
Bhagawan has also said parents tell the children one thing, but they practice another. We tell the children to do something that we are not practicing, and it becomes a very dangerous precedent. Bhagawan gave an example where a Bal Vikas child had just come from class. The lesson taught in the class was honesty. So the parents were watching a television show and the telephone rang. The little child goes to the phone, comes and tells his father, Daddy, Mr. John is on the phone to you. The father tells the child, go and tell him I'm not at home. Ready? the very embodiment, the child is supposed to look upon the parent as the embodiment of God, and he's telling the child to tell an untruth. So what does the child do? He goes to the phone and he says, my father says to say he's not at home. Parents, we have to be very, very careful with our children. Firstly, they are your first responsibility. And a child will follow not what you say, but what you do. So the greatest influencer that you can have on your child or children is to be a good example of human values. Very, very important. I'll give you a quick story again, how very important proper parenting is. Bhagawan gave this story. This mother went to the market. She had a 2-year-old son. In order to keep her hands free, she strapped the child on her back and she was shopping in the market. The little child, without the mother knowing, plucked a banana from a vendor without the person seeing. When the mother finished the shopping and was packing things into her car, she noticed the child with the banana in his hand. And she said, where did you get that? He said, Mommy, I took it and he did not even know. The mother then praised the child and said, wow, you did that? That was so good. So the child started to believe that stealing was a good thing. And as he began to grow up in the village, he started stealing things from his house, from the neighbor's house. Now he had become a young adult. And one day he broke into somebody's home. And while trying to steal an item in the house, the owner accosted him and there was a battle, a little gun battle. He shot and killed someone. He was then sentenced to be hanged. And while in the jail cell, he had one final request. He wanted to see his mother for the last time. When his mother came to the jail cell, he said, Ma, come a little closer because I need to see you for the last time. And when his mother came within his arm's distance, he reached out and he began to choke her. And you know what he told his mother? He said, you are responsible for me being here today, because had you corrected me when I stole the first banana, I would not be here today. So parents, it's a very serious, sacred responsibility to be a good parent to our children. And even before your child reaches Bal Vikas or even into the school, the child spends the most amount of time with who? The mother. Swami says, on the laps of our mothers lie the future of our nation. If you want to judge the progress of a nation, Swami says, look at its mothers. Are they humble? Do they lead God-fearing, selfless lives? And if the answer is yes, we can be guaranteed that we will have good citizens of tomorrow. So parents, we have a great responsibility when you bring children into the world. Scientists have also said from the moment of conception to about 6 years, 75% of the child's personality is formed. After 6 years old is a mere 25. So what happens in the first 6 years will determine the type of life and character your child has. In fact, you remember in the early days, if you wanted to bring a good soul, a value-based soul in the world from the moment of conception, mothers would engage themselves in doing good, being good, seeing good, reading holy scriptures, chanting the name of God, going to prayers, chanting mantras. And because the bloodstream of the mother is the bloodstream of the child, so whatever the mother does would impact on that child. So this is how very, very important parents are and proper parenting is. And it starts in the home. Then let us look at teachers or Bal Vikas gurus. there's a beautiful definition I came across about a good teacher. No written word, no spoken plea can teach young minds what men should be, nor all the books on all the shelves, but what the teachers are themselves. Swami says, if one student in a class is bad, that is not so bad. When one teacher is bad, generations of children will become bad. As the teacher, so the student. If you have good parents and you have good teachers, you're going to have good students. The teacher is the only permanent student, because that teacher, to become innovative, effective, and efficient, has to be continuously updating him or herself about teaching methods and life in general. So it's a very important and sacred responsibility. In 1986, the first EHV conference in Prasanthi Nilayam, one of the speakers shared a story about the role of teachers and parents. And I'd like to share it with you all. It's a beautiful story that happened in India. In one remote village in India, a school supervisor visited a primary school. Children between the ages of 6 and 11 years old. The teacher had a huge map of India on the blackboard, teaching the history of India. And when he had finished his class, the school supervisor asked permission of the teacher to question the children to see how much they had learned from the class. So he took a similar map of India from his back pocket, tore it into little pieces, and it fell on the table in front of the class. Tearing the map of India is considered a great constitutional offense, but he did that to see what would happen. He challenged the entire class to put this map of India together. Some of the most brilliant children in the class came forward, but none could put it together. Even the teacher tried, and he failed. But there was one little 6-year-old boy who used to sit at the back of the class. He was considered what we might call a dunce head. Somebody who couldn't read or write. He could not even spell his name properly. When everybody had tried, he put his little hands together like this and he said, "Sir, may I try?" And in pin drop silence, he walked to the front of the class. And within 2.5 to 3 minutes, he put the entire map of India together. And this shocked the school supervisor and all the children. The brilliant children, they were totally shocked. And the school supervisor then said, "My dear fellow, how were you able to put this map together when some of the most brilliant children in your class and your teacher tried, but they all failed?" He put his little hands together like this, and he said, "Sir, you see, while you were tearing the map, I was looking at your hands, and I noticed at the back of the map was a picture of a child. And all I did was put the pieces of the child together. And when I put the pieces of the child together, I put the whole map of India together." So brothers and sisters, if we can assemble the child, we will assemble the world. And the assemblers are parents and teachers. This is why Swami has said, educate, that comes from the Latin word educare, meaning to bring out that which is latent within. Swami says educate is what is going to reform and transform this world. And we as parents, gurus and teachers, we are the facilitators to allow the awakening of the human values that are resident in our children to blossom forth in human excellence. And that is how and so important it is that teachers, and we have good teachers and we have good parents. So I really just wanted to share that in relation to what I saw here this morning. This is a wonderful example of the blossoming forth of human excellence in children, and I could well imagine the commitment and dedication of the SSC teachers to get it to such a level. You see, Swami has said the SSC teacher is not like a normal teacher. Somebody can teach mathematics in a school, close the door and go home. The SSC teacher teaches 24/7 because they have to live what they teach. They have to become the example of goodness and human values for the children to emulate and follow. And that is why he says it's one of the greatest sadhanas. Because one of those children could become the president of the country. They could occupy the highest positions in the society in years to come. Their minds are very fertile, and it is very important at this tender age up to 6 years that they receive the right teachings and example. And then we'll have a good nation. So brothers and sisters, I know, I'm looking at the time and I know that you all wanted to finish at about 1. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and share a little bit about my personal journey to Swami. Now at the tender age of 16, I was born in a Muslim home in Trinidad. Those of you all who do not know where Trinidad is, it's 15 minutes from Venezuela. From here you could take a direct flight from Newark. In 5 hours you can land in Trinidad. We have a population of about 1.3 million that is made up basically of 50% African, 50% Indian. Our forefathers came from India 165 years ago to work on the sugarcane plantations, North India. You know, I think it's Kolkata, Bihar, Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. So I was born in a Muslim home in the southern part of Trinidad. But at the tender age of 16, I started searching for God. There were 3 questions that occupied my mind. At a time when people my own age, young adults, were thinking about girls and fast cars and movies and dress, I was more preoccupied with finding out, who am I? Why have I been sent on the face of the earth? What is my purpose? I started delving into books on the power of positive thinking by Norman Vincent Peale and Harold Sherman, but found that they only dabbled with the mind. And I found that spirituality went beyond the mind. And then I gravitated to the divine masters of all the different religions. I started reading and studying Paramahansa Yogananda, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Ramana Maharishi, the Sufis of Islam, Jalaluddin Rumi and Imam Ghazali, Gurdjieff and Ouspensky and Krishnamurti. And while reading these books, I really felt a deep connection to what I felt my true purpose really is. Because they went beyond the mind into pure devotion or self-inquiry. At the tender age of 16, having completed secondary school and not knowing what I wanted to do, I used to inhabit the mosque in my village. And one day I meet a Muslim brother who was 15 years older than myself. Very wise person. Although born in an Islamic home, he was very universal and was also searching like myself. So I found in him a guide and an inspiring person. And for days, hours, we would be discussing about God and spirituality. And that went on from 79 to 81, 2 years. And then one day he brings a book for me. And he says, Fize, I want you to read this book. When I look at the cover of the book, I see this bushy-haired African-looking guy. And I said, who is this? And then he said emphatically, this is God in human form. And then I blurted out, you must be mad. How can you call him God? He's a mere mortal. And then he said, Fize, read this book with an open mind. And so I took Satyam Shivam Sundaram home. And when I read the very first few paragraphs, I was so attracted to its contents and teachings. I read the entire book in one sitting. And I was ecstatic because all that my brother and I had discussed about God, spirituality, universality, I found in the pages of Sathya Shivam Sundaram. Brothers and sisters, though, amidst the divine words and the attraction of the teachings of Sai Baba, there arose in me a tremendous conflict. Sai Baba was saying, I am God. And that conflicted with the fundamental belief in Islam that God is formless. You will never find murtis or pictures in the mosque. And then Sai Baba is saying, I am God, but you are God also. And so I had to wrestle how to reconcile the formless with the form. At times I felt guilty that I was going against my religious belief in believing in a physical form as God. And so this wrestling and confusion went on for days and weeks. Sometimes I could not sleep. I was so restless trying to find out the truth. And then there were one or two Muslim devotees in Trinidad, and I sought them out and had long, detailed discussions as to how they were able to reconcile, but not to my satisfaction. So one day I went back into the mosque and I decided to pray to Almighty Allah. My prayer was, I was praying to Him to show me and tell me who is this Satya Sai Baba phenomenon. And I was guided back into the pages of the Holy Quran. In the Holy Quran, Allah says that Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein. So that means He is within. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, once said, he who knows himself knows God. In Islam, there are 5 cardinal principles. The first one is the daily namaz, which is 5 times daily. 2, zakat or charity. 3, the holy month of Ramadan, where Muslims engage in the fast. 4, at least once in one's lifetime, a Muslim must go to the Hajj for the pilgrimage. And the 5th pillar is that if you're a Muslim, you have to declare it publicly by saying, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. The orthodox translation of that is, there is no God but Allah, and the Holy Prophet Muhammad is His messenger. But the mystical men of Islam interprets the same verse, not that there is no God but Allah, but that there is nothing but Allah. A big difference. And so my doubts were being removed so that more doubts could come. Then after 1981, after 2 years of reading so many of Swami's books, I started attending satsangs and having discussions, but this doubt, this reconciliation was still there. And I decided, look, I've read enough, I've discussed enough, I need to go and see Sai Baba myself. And in 1981, Swami issued a loving invitation to all overseas Bal Vikas Gurus to an overseas Bal Vikas Guru conference in Prashanti Nilayam in July 1981. So I put my name down and we journeyed to Puttaparthi, a group of Trinidadians, and we ended up the exact morning of Guru Purnima in the Pune Chandra, the back of the Pune Chandra hall. When we arrived, we were ushered quickly, stating that Swami was about to come out. We were sitting way in the back, there were thousands of people, and all of a sudden, there was a hush and a silence. And then the curtains parted, and there I saw this 5-foot form dressed in an orange gown float across the stage. And immediately I began to feel a connection with this great humanitarian. And then for the next 30 days, with every darshan, every divine discourse, every manifestation of vibhuti, my doubts were becoming less and less. And deep inside of me, there was a clearing and a better understanding. Then one brother told me, he said, Brother Fize, do you know that Sai Baba has built a mosque for the Muslims? And I said, really? Then I was taken to where the mosque was, and I did namaz in the mosque, and I inquired as to how this mosque came to be here. There's a beautiful story of it, that the Muslims at that time had to trek 7 miles to the nearest mosque in Bukkapatnam. And in the early part of the year, in the blistering heat, this could be as much as 5 times daily. Sri Sathya Sai Baba, out of love and compassion, constructed the mosque. And in October 1977, he invited the entire Muslim community and the villagers. He was going to inaugurate and open the mosque. And lo and behold, with a gentle wave of his hand, he materialized pendants with Arabic inscriptions and gave it to the mosque board members. Then Swami made a very pertinent statement, and I want to urge all of you all to Google that discourse that Swami gave. It is pure Vedanta. Bhagawan says that the Holy Quran was revealed directly from God to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, just as the Vedas were revealed from God directly to man. And that anyone who practices the tenets and principles contained there will gain liberation. Then Swami said, no religion exhorts violence. All propagate love for God and service to humanity. And I started to jump for joy when I saw the mosque. And then I also inquired. There were some beautiful experiences with Muslims and Swami. In Vrindavan many years ago, Swami granted a group of Muslims an interview. And while talking to them, Baba opened his palm like this. And there, appearing in the middle of his palm, was a live and moving picture of the Holy Kaaba, where millions were circumambulating. And Swami told them, I have called you here today because I and the Holy Prophet Muhammad are one. Swami in a divine discourse as well said, Islam means I-S-L-A-M, I shall love all mankind. And now and for many years before, Swami's students during the holy month of Ramadan and Eidul Fitr would conduct beautiful plays and dramas of Islam. In fact, my dear brother Amrit was in one of those plays. He showed me a picture a couple of days ago, yesterday. So Swami was teaching us that all are one, all lead to the same goal. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have a public holiday called Labor Day. That's the 19th of June every year. And we had a bhajan session on the 18th that particular year. And because the next day was a holiday, we sang bhajans throughout the night. And I was transporting 3 devotees in my car back home when I got into a massive motor vehicle accident. The other car coming in the opposite direction crashed into mine. It was so bad that the front of the car reached almost the windscreen. The windscreen spattered and all the splinters went into my face and I started to bleed profusely. The steering wheel had hit me in my chest and I lost consciousness. I was just 23 years old when I awoke in the hospital. The older devotees were pouring tulsi water in my mouth. They were saying, Brother Fize, he's not going to survive, because I didn't regain consciousness. The most amazing thing about this accident was I felt absolutely no pain. And after 3 days, I was discharged from the hospital. October of that same year, a group of 45 Trinidadians journeyed to Puttaparthi, and I get my very first interview with Mother Sai. And as I sit just 2 feet from where he sat, Bhagawan would normally, as the perfect host, put on the lights and the fan, materialize the vibhuti and give it to others. And then he looks at me with so much love and he said, it was I who saved you from that accident. And then he started to do his hand like this and he said, you drive too fast. So all you fast drivers, Bhagawan then said, start early, drive slowly, reach safely. It was done here with the Balvika's children. Then with a gentle wave of his hand, I was looking up at his hand, sitting, and I see this pendant literally form, and he catches it. I bend my head thinking it's the person at the back, and Swami said, no, you. He drops a silver pendant in my hand, takes a group of devotees into the inner interview room, and then everybody is saying, Brother Fize, please show us. As I begin to do this, Swami comes back out less than a minute, and he does like this. No exhibition. Then one elderly gentleman jumps up in the interview room and he said, Swami, don't you think we should get Brother Fize married? I said, Hare Krishna. Here it is. I was searching since the age of 16 to find this divine master, this God that I could have a communication with. And here I've met him. Marriage was the furthest thing from my mind. I was so preoccupied with following the teachings and understanding myself. So when this person made this comment, I jumped up and I said, Swami, the only way I will get married is that you must choose the girl. Then he said, Nahi, nahi, nahi. Let parents decide and I will bless. It took 8 years from 1983 to 1991 for my mother to decide on one girl. But I wanted to make sure that this is what God wants for me, not what Fize wants, because I may not know what is good for me, yes? So I take a picture of the girl, I write a letter, and I journey down to Puttaparthi. Swami was in Whitefield. Now that beautiful darshan with the Krishna. I spent 2 weeks there, and every day I'm giving Swami the letter and he's totally ignoring me. I began to feel it was another Upanishad, ignore Upanishad. See, the last darshan, they normally allow you to sit in front. So the last darshan before I left, I sat in front and I gave Swami a challenge. I said, Swami, I have written a letter with the contents of the girl, and if you take this letter from me today, then I know you would have approved of the marriage, and if not, I am on my ancient and royal highway to self-realization. So I'm holding the letter like this, and Bhagawan starts to walk. When he's 15 feet away from me, he stops. And he turns around and he begins to walk back to the mandir. And then I start to smile. I start to put away the letter. And then all of a sudden, Swami stops. He turns around and he looks directly where I was. And instantly he's in front of me. And he does like this. And he plucks the letter from my hand. I fall at his feet crying. He put his hand on my head and he said, very happy, very happy. Devotees, that was October 1991. I go back to Trinidad and in less than 1 month I get married. I invite the whole Sai organization, 1,000 devotees came. But weddings and marriages are very expensive. So all money had gone. But I remember what Swami told me, let parents decide and I will bless. So I said, Swami, we need your blessings, but there is no money. I'll tell you, in the early days, when I would go to Puttaparthi, I never had enough money. So one day, on one trip, I had to sell my car to get enough funds. And then when I came back, Baba gave me a little bigger, better car, and then I would sell it again. Because I made a promise at least once per year, I would go and visit my Divine Master. So here's how Swami orchestrated the money. Air India had a promotion in the West Indies that for the last 3 months, all the passengers who traveled on this airline, they would put their names in a bowl and they will raffle, and whichever name comes out first will win a free trip to India. So after praying fervently, after some time, I get a call from the Air India office in New York. Are you Mr. Fize Mohammad? Yes, you've just won a free trip to India. And I said, wait, thank you, Swami. But I'll tell you something, marriage was very difficult for me. See, first 31 years, I was only thinking about I. Now, when wife comes, you have to move from I to we, and then when children come, is we. I had to move from selfishness to selflessness. So that adjustment was very difficult. My wife and I used to quarrel almost every day. We arrived in Prashanti Nilayam in early December. So October I got the approval, November we get married, December we back in Prashanti. And the room that Swami gave us was like a wedding suite. You know, normally you have to furnish the rooms yourself. This room had beautiful fresh cut flowers and pictures of Swami in a tablecloth. And I said, Bhagawan, I've never seen this before. Then on the 16th of December 1991, we get what I call the wedding interview. Swami took us into the inner interview room, and what he promised 8 years before, he took the wedding rings, put it in his hand, and he said, I bless, I bless, I bless. And then he looks at me and he said, you, temper. And he looks at my wife and he said, you, hot. The quarreling. And then he takes his two fingers and he says, up, down, but always together. Then he gives a discourse on marriage. He says, marriage is 23 hours and 55 minutes of pain and 5 minutes of pleasure. He said, first 2 years, wife nice. Next 2 years, wife is knife. And then I began to think, he's telling me this after I've taken the step. Then he said, wife, W-I-F-E, if you get a good wife, W stands for wisdom, invited forever. If you get a bad wife, is worries, invited forever. But I see a lot of wise husbands here. You all have good wives. And Rajima. And then Swami, as he was talking, he just turned his head quickly, looks at me and he said, how many children do you want? But you know, we fathers, I jump. I said, Swami, I want a boy first. He said, why do you want boy? Girls are better. Exact words. Girls, ladies, give yourself a round of applause. He said, girls are better. He said, girls take better care of parents. They have more love, more devotion, more consideration. Then I said, Swami, let it be your will. He said, Acha, I give one boy, one girl. Lo and behold, 2 girls came. So the next interview I get, I said, Swami, the last time you said you give one boy, one girl, now 2 girls have come. And in true Trinidadian style, he does like this, what can I do? And then he got very serious and he looked into my eyes and he said, I give very good children. Today my 2 daughters are Marita Vani, and because I am Muslim married to a Hindu, my daughters, they have Sarva Dharma names. So the first child is Amrita Vani Khadija Mohammad. Khadija was the first wife of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. And the second child is Shivana Amina Mohammed. They are 25 and 26 years old. Now they live and they study. They're in Canada now and they are wonderful young adults. They went through the entire Bal Vikas SSC and young adults. So brothers and sisters, this is my little journey to Sai. But as Amrit was mentioning in the beginning, I just share this last experience and bring this message to an end. The second most fair thing in the world is public speaking. Do you know what is the most fair thing in the world? I'll let you all research it. I'll keep you in suspense. The second most fair thing in the world is public speaking. You see, when I started to do Swami's messages in the early 80s, I was so scared of standing in front of a group of people. My whole body would tremble. I would sweat profusely and get bad migraine headaches. And then Swami told me, he said, you must have more confidence in yourself. And I started to practice this teaching of Swami, and it helped me to a certain point. But sometimes in life, a calamity can become a blessing. One day I gave a message in Trinidad on Navaratri on the mother, and a very close friend of mine, the next morning he calls at 7:30 and he starts to criticize the message and how I gave it. And I felt very hurt and pained because we were very close friends. The next trip to Puttaparthi, we get a group interview, and I said, Swami, may I speak with you privately? He said, Acha, go. And as I sit in the inner interview room and I sat at his lotus feet, Swami takes these two fingers and he pinches my cheek like this so lovingly. And he said, you must speak on Sai experience and the morality. And then I said, Swami, there are some people who do not approve of the way I speak. He takes this index finger and he pushes it straight where my heart is. And he said, you go and speak and I will be there inside you. And a most amazing thing happened in that interview, devotees. It was as if Swami drove every ounce of fear of public speaking from my consciousness. And now whenever and wherever he directs, I strive to be just the willing instrument in his hands. So brothers and sisters, I want to thank each and every one of you all for giving me the chance to share and to receive the love of Mother Sai. And there are three things that Swami does in his message that I've tried to pattern the talks. If you notice, Swami always sings. He tells a joke. And he always has a story that would convey a beautiful message. So I just want to end by singing a simple Islamic song that we have learned and we sing in our satsangs in Trinidad. Would you like to learn it quickly? So if I make believe you are SSE children, is it okay? You will feel very young. So just repeat the words after me. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Children, did you all eat? Come on, full-throated voices, you know, this is Swami. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Let's see the ladies first. Ladies, you all go ahead. La ilaha illallah. The gents? La ilaha illallah. Yeah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadur Rasulallah. Muhammadur Rasulallah. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadur Rasulallah. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadur Rasulallah. The next line is Subhanallah. 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 And there you have it, that's the song. So that's the meaning. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulallah. There is nothing but Allah. And the Holy Prophet Muhammad is his messenger. Subhanallah, glory be to God. So I'll sing the first line, and if bhajan style, you all can just repeat. La ilaha illallah. 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 Muhammadur Rasulallah. 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 Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Subhanallah, 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 La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Subhanallah, 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 La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. May Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba bless and guide each and every one of us. And as we continue to aspire on the spiritual path, let our fervent and heartfelt prayer be that we will ceaselessly strive to be wonderful examples of His divine love. Jai Sai Ram.
Inspiring us. You are truly a messenger of Swami, truly an angel, and thank you for coming all the way and sharing Swami's message to us. So let's give Brother Fize another round of applause with heartfelt gratitude. So now we have